Well, the first thing I wanted to do with the flame wheel is get it running in manual mode. Sometimes manual mode is your best friend, even above return to launch. When the platform's doing something and being controlled by the flight controller and it does something funky, you do a return to launch and it goes in the wrong direction or something, it's just obvious going in the wrong direction. Sometimes a half throttle hover and flipping it into manual mode just stops it right there, lets you bring it back, lets you land it right there, whatever. So before you get the flight controller doing a bunch of fancy things, return to home or anything, you really want to get manual mode going. So I launched the flame wheel and tried to move it back towards the landing pad, and it came towards me. I didn't want it to hit me, so I gave it a little throttle, kind of gave it just a little more forward, which then it moved even more backwards and started up over the house. I knew if it got over the edge of the roof, out of my sight with no return to launch mode set up yet, that I was in big trouble. So I just had to kind of steel myself, keep my act together, and my mind said it got rotated 180 in yaw somehow. That's what my mind said. And so I kind of pulled back on the stick and it started coming back towards where I was flying from. And I was able to gently let it down on the other side of the fence in the backyard, on the little upper level of the backyard. So then I went and picked it up and brought it back to the launch pad and lifted off again and started forward, and it moved backwards again, so I just set it right down. And I have this thing I've always done with quads and stuff. I'll bring the throttle up where it's not taking off, but then I'll use the right stick and like move it to the right and see if the left side raises up, trying to go to the right, and move the stick to the left to see if the right side raises up, trying to move the platform to the left, and move it forward and see if the back raises up, and move it backwards, see if the front raises up. Well, when I pulled it backwards, the back raised up, so I knew right then and there that channel 2, the elevator channel, which isn't elevator on a vertical, was reversed. And so I went into my radio, reversed the channel 2, and now I have a manual mode that works perfectly. So I'm ready for that. The mid-throttle hover will come later in the tuning. But right now I do have a manual mode that works, and I just flew it for 2 or 3 minutes just to kind of see how hot the motors got and if any of the bullet connectors around the motors got hot, kind of signifying a bad solder joint or a bad connection. Just a little shakedown flight, getting manual mode going, and like a 3-minute hover for just testing everything so far.
Vernon armed. Vernon heading to waypoint home. Altitude is 3. Ground speed is 1.
Now that got my heart rate up for sure.
Vernon heading to waypoint home. Altitude is 6. Ground speed is 0. Vernon disarmed. Vernon heading to waypoint home. Altitude is 0. Ground speed is 2. Vernon armed.
This is where I started testing it with the right stick on the RC transmitter. And you can see how it went forward when I pulled back on the control stick.
Vernon heading to waypoint home, altitude is 0, ground speed is 1. Vernon disarmed.
This is where I jumped into the radio and reversed channel 2.
Vernon heading to waypoint home, altitude is 0, ground speed is 0.
Now I was confident that it would go forward when I told it to go forward and backwards when I told it to go backwards, so I was ready to start all over again.
Vernon armed. Vernon heading to waypoint home, altitude is 0, ground speed is 1. Vernon heading to waypoint home, altitude is 4, ground speed is 0. Vernon heading to waypoint home, altitude is 4, ground speed is 0. DKF primary changed : 1.